Hello everybody, welcome back to AI War Fleet Command. Time to progress further to try to survive defending this transceiver. And 14 minutes and change left. After pondering this at significant length, I have a plan. I'm not sure if the plan is going to work, but it's a plan. Now here's what happened the last time. I sent my Spire fleet. As I mentioned, it was destroyed. It was destroyed because I noticed Camilla was under attack. I sent it down there, and it got annihilated. Lots of regen golems, reconstituting lots of high mark siege towers equals lots of damage to starships and bigger ships, and yeah, that did not go well. Now, if we look at our attacking numbers, this is the CPA. We don't care about that right now. And we're probably not going to care about it when it hits, relatively speaking. Threat. Not a whole lot anywhere. You can see... So here's what's attacking. And it's basically attacking in two main spots. It's heading toward anti-cheese. There's not much there now, but there'll be more. And it's heading toward Camilla. And the Camilla force is the one that I couldn't handle. Now, if you look at it, you can see 32 ships for 5,000 in Camilla, but they're also on either side of it at Minerva and Pallas. So if you add all of that together, see, it's approaching 1,500 ships, not quite there. It's over 70,000, like 73, 74,000 in strength. And then when you figure in the stuff coming back from because of the regen golems, yeah, that was a problem. Now, it was also a problem that I got there after the battle was over. If I'd gotten there in the middle of the battle, things could have been different. Now, the other area over here, Ceres, 400 ships, over 50,000. That's a lot. Anti-cheese, as mentioned, not much. And then Dagobah has a bunch of ships, but not that much strength. So overall, that's less than 60,000. It's lower in strength. And it just so happens that if we depart immediately, which I've already set up, we can get there in time to save it. And my goal right now is to save what I can. I would rebuild in Herculea, but I don't have time to get ships down there. I've got to save anti-cheese. And they have some in here already. Not a lot, but enough. And they're probably just passing through. Maybe not. But you can see there isn't much left here. No reason for them to stay. We may eventually have a chance. Oh, look. They have snipers. I haven't seen them deploy snipers yet. Yay! And that, by the way, probably explains why this system went down so easily. Now, in terms of the broader picture, the strategy is to stall. And that's one of the reasons why I really want to save anti-cheese. We'll get to that in a bit. There's just a lot going on here to explain. The reason why we are even still alive is because they were trying to send forces at all of the Spire cities, not just the ones up here. We've got Cato Nemoidia and Sindai, and the capital is always going to attract a lot of attention, but of course, anti-cheese, Papagena, and Camilla. And from what I can see that they have, we're going to be okay in Papagena. We're working on rebuilding that from previous scenario. We'll just take a look at that real quick. It has a shard reactor building weapons, and, you know, we're building Hab Center, building shipyard. So it's there, but it's weak and trying to recover as much as it can. But if we lose Camilla, okay, if we keep anti-cheese, like if anti-cheese is still around when the next wave hits, then some of their forces will probably divert there. And if they do, that's less that comes crashing in here, and maybe we'll still be alive by the time the timer runs out. So that's part of it. There's going to be more aspects to the stall, but in general, stalling is the goal. And so what I want to do is maintain a core, as big of a core as I can. Frozenzin's got to be included. This whole area up here. And also Iris. So more like this. That's going to be my core. Every system in there has a job. They have different jobs, but they all have a job that I want to have accomplished. Now, a suggestion was made earlier in this game, hey, why don't you use the metal converters more? And at the time, I didn't want to do it. But clearly, I'm well overdue doing it by now. So we're going to do some of that. We're going to build metal converters, Sindai, Eugenia, and Charikla. We've got tons of metal. We've had tons of metal all game. You can see the income over 72,000 because of all the scrap. Now, the scrap level is going to be reduced. But again, we're on a limited time frame here. We don't need this stuff to last forever. And as they go around hammering systems, wherever they do, we're not going to be able to protect everything, and we're going to lose energy. If they hit Merapi, we'll lose the Zenith power generator, and we're going to want to have energy backup in order to deal with that. I also want to throw more ships into the field, which is another part of the strategy, Spirecraft. I'm going to be adding Spirecraft, and I've decided to go with, I'm going to get a couple more Martyrs. I don't want to get a lot of those. I'm going to build some armored warheads. But I also want to get, with the Spirecraft, I want to get shield bearers and siege towers. And I felt that those provided the best possibility of attack and defense. Not just because the AI uses a lot of them, but because the shield bearers can protect things, and the siege towers have a decent attack while also having a pretty good level of armor and health. And so the idea is, even if they don't destroy anything, the shield bearers won't, they're just a defensive ship. But to give them something else to shoot at is vital. I'm also going to start ramping up, because I'm going to get a bunch more energy, I'm going to start ramping up with building some of our fleet ships and starships, which are not going to do much offensively in this type of battle, but again, give them more targets to shoot at. They're not constantly shooting at my Spire ships. I can last longer in a fight against some of their top concentrations of force. Now down here in Minerva, it's kind of interesting to see what's going on. I'm not going to be able to peek in here for very long because of needing to multitask elsewhere, but you see the force field is down to almost nothing. It's not even on top of this anymore. So maybe I want to move it a little bit closer if it'll let me. It's only a level 1. And then we've got all these ships in here. They have over 400 ships in here, and it looks like, okay, this thing is dead. But in actuality, most of them are headed into Camilla. They're about to make that jump into there. And we can't save that. But this fight, you see a lot of them are immobilized by our spiders. And then we've got, they're starting to rebuild up. I don't want it on that side. Let's move it up on this side if it's going to be on a side. And then they're just starting to whittle this down. Here comes Warp Gate Guardian, but it actually looks like we're going to make it here. Okay, so here we are. Rival in anti-cheese. And right when we get here, you can see that we're still, we're under attack here, but we've heavily damaged some stuff. And we need to get moving right away. So, I'm going to move right down in here, right in the middle of all of this, and see what kind of help we can provide. Taking out some other things on the way in. You can see there's a couple hunter killers down in here along with all the damaged starships. I don't mind targeting those first. They're going after the Spire, everything. There we go. And now we should be able to clean up the rest relatively easily. We lost one ship, probably a frigate. And okay, there goes that regen golem, and we're going to be able to wrap this up and rebuild this system. Now, Spire-wise, we lost, I think, one building. Shipyard, Hab Center. So we just need to rebuild a shipyard here. That's no big deal. And now we can get to work rebuilding this. This will still be a distraction for them. It'll be part of our force later on. We could even use the asteroids here, and probably will, because the Zampites we don't have very many of. So all of that is really good for us. And if we just pop in here at Camilla, you can see it is getting overrun. You can see the mass of everything that's here. 16 siege towers, a few regen golems, 13 translocators. They've got a few shield bearers, a couple hunter killers. They've got, this is their biggest concentration of force that they have at the moment. And Camilla going down hard. Alright, so we're now down to about 12.5 minutes left on the timer. It's about 2 minutes after we started this session in game time. And I'm moving on to the next phase of the stall. So we're rebuilding an anti-cheese, continuing to slowly rebuild in Papagena. Herculina keeps having traffic go through it, so I haven't been able to do anything with that, unfortunately. If it ever clears out, then I will try. But Camilla is gone. That's sort of the big news. And I sort of really had a decision to make here. And you can see there's a bunch of damage stuff. I mean, they're still mostly intact. My scout's gone. And so we didn't just do nothing. Like, we inflicted some damage on them, just not nearly enough. Okay, so I could, as they're headed off to Palace, probably going to take that down. Well, they will if they try. I could try to go and, like, intercept them and everything. The thing is, that would mean going through a lot of systems we don't control, getting caught up a little bit by the ships that are there. We travel slowly through those because we've got logistics stations, very important thing, up on most of ours. I just don't think I've got the time. We might lose that battle anyway. So what I'm looking for here is just a way to proceed. Now I've done a couple things. One is I have built what I call the speed bumps. And I've got them at the entry points into all the systems just outside of Elpis. And the key point here is these ships are going off somewhere else, but I want to build them right on top of the wormhole because battle groups have to spread out as they go through the wormhole, and we can try to hammer them as they come in. Break them up a little bit, and of course they'll have to shoot at all this stuff. It'll shoot at them, will do some damage. Not probably a huge amount of damage, but again, every little bit is going to help. We're just throwing every dart at the board that we can find. So I've got one of those in Cato Nemoidia, one in Iris, and I think I'm just building it in Freszenzen, if I recall correctly. Yeah, we've got all this up here starting to build. Finally cleared out all the resistance that was in there. In Eugenia and Cato Nemoida, we are building up also fleet ships and starships. So we're going to add those to whatever we can throw at the board. We're building up Spirecraft in several systems. I've got some going in Ceres now, which is the one where we've got the best asteroids. But I've got some going in most of our systems that we have access to, that we control with asteroids up in this area. And so we're going to throw all those out. Also, you can see by our energy situation, we have a nice big surplus, which is going to shrink as the Spirecraft come online and we lose systems. But we've got a nice big surplus at the moment. That's because all the matter converters are pretty much online. Elpis has everything cleaned up, working on the armored warheads now. And then I'm trying to expand my buffer zone. Now, if you look, there's a couple directions. We only control one hop. And I want to expand that to 2 in all directions. I'd like to expand it further, but 2 is about all I can do. So I'm going to take 3 systems. I split up the Spire fleet in 2 halves and I'm going to clear these out. There's no need to watch that because we've seen plenty of Spire fleets clearing out systems before, systems without major resistance. But off of Iris, I want to take out Utapau and Vidate. And off of Freszenzen, I want to take out Karen. And I'm also going to put logistic stations. We'll only be able to put Mark 1s, but put those up in these systems. And what that'll do is it'll slow them down even a little bit more, because when they come into these systems, they'll have to divert ships to take out the command stations. And even if they don't, there's that 37-38% slowdown that we get from that. Our ships will be faster, those will be slower as long as those stations stay up. And I'm not taking them because I want to do anything with them or because of resources or anything else. It's just another way of slowing them down. And that's sort of the rest of the plan for the stall. At this point, I just want to clear those systems out. I want to keep a really close eye on what this force from Camilla does. If it starts trying to push its way up here, gets close to my systems, I'm going to want to meet it. I want to collect all of my Spirecraft and the new ships I'm building, continuing to rebuild all the Spire stuff I can, Anti-Cheese, Papagena, and so on. And just fortify everything, and then pretty much the next step after collecting all that is going to be, what do we do when the next wave hits? And that, of course, is when the rubber's going to really meet the road. But at least in this way, I'll be more prepared than I was. Well, here we go. Here's our next snapshot in time. The next wave, and I think the only other one we have to survive, easier said than done, has hit. You can see we got a little over 7 minutes now. Yeah, it's special. You can see 233 massive AI ships, almost 250,000 strength. Now, about, I would say 20% of that roughly is the leftover from the previous adventure, and that they've been hanging out down here. They have taken out Minerva, they have taken out Pallas, but right now they're in Camilla, which is several jumps away from us. So that's a great place for them to just stay. Now the rest of them, we don't have scouting everywhere. They've been doing Astro Train stuff in here. We don't have scouts here. We don't have scouts here. They've got some ships in here. We'll knock these out soon. All of that. But we do know that they've got a bunch in Laetitia. You can see 2 armored golems, an artillery golem, a black widow, a couple cursed, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm just looking at the golems here. An artillery, 2 black widows in Strix Nebulosa. And these 2 groups, I expect, will smash through Thisbe and up this way. And they've got some more in Titania, where thankfully there is also a Devour Golem. There's an armored, an artillery, a black widow, and I'm going to guess that we've got a group in at least one of these 2 places that's also going to try to smash up through here into Iris. But that's a little bit of a longer journey for them. In Massalia, a couple armored golems and a black widow. Oh, and a couple regens. But still, overall, I don't think this group is as big as the others. And it's the only one that can smash up through Naboo. So I think we've got a situation where it's pretty clear what the toughest one is. That's the good news. The bad news is I didn't expect it to come from this way. They haven't come from this way in the previous times, and I was focusing in every other direction. If we look at Cato Nemoidia and look at my speed bump, you can see it's all aimed towards Naboo, and they still could come to Naboo, but doesn't look like they're going to. So I've got a couple things in here, a couple warheads. I'm going to bring these up here. I'm going to bring in my wasps up in this area, and I bring my fleet up in this area. And the idea is I want to pound this stuff as soon as it gets into Thisbe. When it gets too intense, I'll retreat to Elpis. And then have the other speed bumps, hopefully, like if I can absorb this hit and then turn my attention on them. I think that's my best shot at this. Long shot, but it's the best one I have. Now you can see I've got a bunch of shield bearers, and I'm going to move those over here as well. I don't know if this will be able to go over there in time, but I really wanted this to just cover the turrets, because unlike the shield bearers, this is going to reduce my effectiveness, anything that fires under that. So I don't really want to get that in the way of my ships. Now in terms of the build-up, I've done pretty much everything I can. The metal's starting to go up now, but that's just because I just finished with the last of, where are they? Yeah. Implosion artillery, because I ran out of cap space for shield bearers and siege towers. So I'm going to move these. I'm just going to collect those all up in there. I've got a couple of armored warheads, and we're going to be working on another one soon. Yeah, the timer hasn't run out, but we should get a third one up in here. I want to definitely use those when they start smashing into the homeworld. See, we've got a dozen siege towers in place, one of the implosions, and we got several of those shield bearers in all these other places. We've got basically like a martyr and a warhead. That's the good news. The bad news is, and I'm going to keep shifting the engineers up here as I've been doing, I've got all of this cleared out of Spirecraft asteroids. But we're still building up our fleet ships and our starships. We're out of time, but we're not nearly there. So I'm going to keep moving the engineers up, work on some more in here, and then move them back to my other building center in Eugenia. But we just didn't quite get there. Only so much time. If I'd started earlier, you know, that would have worked out better. Alright, here we go. So this is where everything is going to happen. Their first ship has just jumped in. Mark V raid starship. Eliminate that very quickly. I've got everything I can send in here, and it was none too soon. We're exactly at 7 minutes. They're starting to come up into Naboo from Massalia. This will blunt that some, I hope. But we need to eliminate as much of this as fast as we can to have any chance here. So, let's see how she rolls. And yeah, I want those shield bears up farther. Thankfully, they're good and fast. There we go. And that's Utapau. Now, again, we didn't build any defenses in these, so I wasn't too worried about it. And they don't have much in here. So we look at their attacking number. They have a whole bunch coming up through Karen. They're going to hit this in Frozenzen. Had to figure that was going to come. And the group that's in Thisbe is almost as strong, because that's the one that's coming up through here, and there's more coming from Strix Nebulosa. And you can see, look at those cursed golems. This is all going to be on our doorstep. Waiting for them to come through in more force so I can release the wasps. That's probably good enough. And then I want to watch these other systems, because as soon as we're heavily engaged over in these areas, I want to send in my explosives over here too. I've got to keep track of all 3 areas. But right now, Cato Nemoidia is the only one with business. That's not bad. Yeah, Karen destroyed. Of course Karen's destroyed. There we go. There's a Black Widow. Come on, stay in here, everybody. There they come through the other door. Oh, we lost a warhead somewhere. Yeah, that's not going to do much. Doggone it. Cursed golems, all kinds of stuff coming through there. I don't like the looks of this. I think we're screwed anyway. Well, nothing more coming through here. Yet. More is about to. Let's go hammer on this. Alright, how is Iris doing? Besides getting slammed hard. Yeah, they're going to get into the homeworld soon. What is this? Is that the cursed? Yeah. And they're going to come in through the Iris wormhole. We're coming in through Cato Nemoidia. Oh, one of them got through already. Ha ha ha! Where did you get through from? Okay, well, you know where we're going now. Go. Go, everybody go. Everybody freaking go. Okay. Imminent disaster averted. Let's worry about the 500 other disasters that are incoming. Alright, and now we're going to switch. Nope, we're going to get that cursed golem. Get the golem. Get the freaking golem. Try to get the golem. Okay, now come back over this way. And die. Because we're screwed. Yep. There it is. There it freaking is. Let me just see what all was left. Still quite a bit out there. Oh, it's over 150,000 here on Elpis. Okay. So, why did I lose? What did I do wrong? One is I was just too relaxed about everything. I wasn't in a hurry. Because I was just trying to be careful and don't make any mistakes and don't leave yourself exposed, etc. Building up through the game. You've got to have a little bit more of a purpose with the setup, I believe. The reason why that's got to happen is because of how the Fallen Spire waves ramp up over time. So the fact that I didn't do that, just let them get stronger than they would have otherwise. You know, obviously I could have begun using the metal converters earlier. Could have made some progress that way. And, you know, you can see, like, it wouldn't have made a difference here, but I forgot to use my warheads. Not that it would have mattered, the 2 armored warheads. Anyway, the other thing is just not understanding the way the Fallen Spire works, particularly with knowledge. Because I could have gotten better modules on some of my ships. The Spire ships, I could have increased their firepower, their protection that way. That would have helped some. Then maybe I could have knocked out the rest of that group that hung out down in Camilla, and then maybe that would have diluted this final wave. There's a lot of things I could have done differently to max this out if I'd known what was coming. Let's take a look at some of what the game thinks about this. It thinks our adjusted score is far better than any other game I've played. You can see the score there, the total. Almost a 7-to-1 kill ratio, and it wasn't good enough. Pushing 300,000 kills, etc. And then the achievements bit. We got a few. We got Xenocidal We got losses, so we got the top one for kills being genocidal, and then the first one for losses, losing at least 30,000 ships. By the math, I think that we lost around 40,000, actually, so we weren't any near these, thankfully. 10 million points, the highest score point achievement. And that's it, because we didn't win. Now, there's 3 Spire campaign-related achievements. And what we're going for here is the final one, which didn't happen. The other 2 are stomping their homeworlds with your Spire fleet anytime after you've built one of the Spire City hubs, or doing so after you've built the capital. And what I'm going to do next is just go back to right after we built the capital, take that fleet, go through and see if we can handle the homeworld part. I think we should be able to, and I don't think it's going to actually even be that difficult. But then, I don't want to leave the Fallen Spire without having fully completed it. There's a interesting comment in the wiki. The wiki on the Fallen Spire, particularly the technical details on it, is incomplete. But there's a kind of interesting statement from the developer. And he wrote in there that, you know, we've heard some people want to go on their first Fallen Spire campaign with 7.6 plus difficulty, other stuff turned on, like the hybrids and so on. More power to them, and band-aids. What you really should do is go on to the, difficulty 7 with vanilla AIs, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, but it's really close to that. And I don't think I fully appreciated going into this game. I don't think there's a way you can without having experienced it. The degree to which the Fallen Spire is just layered on top of the regular game. The beginning of it, we have to use all our regular stuff, do our normal expansion. But once you start getting the Spire ships, that just sort of takes over everything. And you've got to have a strategy in mind geared towards the Fallen Spire endgame. I would have wanted to have more contiguous territory, for example, and better fortification, which would have been a lot easier if I had had the Spire upgrades, but it also would have been a lot easier if I knew what was going on. I had to defend against too many areas at once. I could have, for example, concentrated my, beam cannons and all those other things, and they don't do a huge amount, but they do really help. You'd think the golems would be a huge help, but I'm actually not sure with having them on hard that they were that much of one. Simply because if I hadn't been pausing to deal with their exowaves, especially early on, but I was really doing it regularly, I wanted to make sure I handled them well. And I hadn't spent the resources on getting them initially, and all of that, and I just purely focused on the Fallen Spire stuff. I think things might have gone even better. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another game in montage format. It's not going to show nearly the details. It'll just show what my thoughts were as I went through the game. You do it on difficulty 7, standard AI. You do standard difficulty, no extra special AIs, hard types, anything like that. No crafty Spire technologist level stuff. And then I'll pick it up again in more detail when we get to this final battle. I do think I can do much better than I did here. I'd have to be prepared for it. Like, you can say, well, why don't you use the nuclear warheads? Well, that would be a really cool idea, except almost all this stuff is immune to it. If we zoom in, we can see, like, the Missile Guardian, well, the Guardians would have been taken out by it. But the actual Spirecraft, you're immune to nuclear explosions. So is the Hunter Killer, so is all this. Ultimately, we were just totally unable to deal with the weight that they sent at us. Regardless of that, it is a defeat, but I hope you've enjoyed the journey. I will return. We will see the full ending to the Fallen Spire, but that's going to be a bit down the road. Next time, we'll be looking at seeing if our capital level Spire fleet can level the AI homeworlds. Until then, thanks for watching, everybody. More AI War will continue.